There is one mistake I can't let you keep making with penser, dear English speaker. One mistake that can be fixed by replacing two letters with one and could be causing confusion when you speak French. So to learn how to use penser de and penser à correctly so you can speak clearly and confidently, keep on watching until the end so you can test yourself with le petit quiz. Du coup, si vous êtes prêts, allez, c'est parti. Alors, the mistake that many learners make is to say something like the following sentence. Alex, je pense de French in plain sight quand je suis en train d'apprendre le français. The mistake is a small one, but it's significant. Using penser de in this way is incorrect. Penser de is only to be used to express opinions. For any other form of thinking about or of something or someone, you have to use penser à. So, what should the correct sentence be? I'll leave it on screen and give you a few seconds. Oui, c'est ça. Alex, je pense à French in plain sight quand je suis en train d'apprendre le français. Alex, je pense à French in plain sight. So we replaced de with à. Now the verb penser has many uses and meanings, but thankfully you will instinctively understand most of them if you're a native English speaker because they map directly to how we use the verb to think. So for this video, we're just going to zone in on one or two tricky cases. When it comes to thinking about and thinking of, it takes a little work to choose penser à or penser de. So that's why I like to teach it by saying penser de is when thinking about is giving an opinion. For all other meanings of thinking about or of, you use penser à. It really can be as simple as that. What do you think about Sophie? In this sentence, you're asking for someone's opinion, so it's penser de. Qu'est-ce que tu penses de Sophie? Qu'est-ce que tu penses de Sophie? When responding to that question, you'll almost always hear the form je pense que blah blah blah. Par contre, on the other hand, par contre, here are some other ways we use think about and think of in English that are translated by penser à. To think of someone who's on your mind. To think about your travel plans. To think about a nice memory. To spare a thought for someone. To think through an idea. To think about doing something. So yes, I did include some sentences that don't just come in the form of think about, think of, but that also translate to penser à. So yes, all of these are communicated with penser à in French. So really, if you're going to make the mistake of using à or de when you should use the other one, you should actually use à because you've more chance of being right. Let's see some examples for the meanings I just mentioned. Elle a pensé à moi. Elle a pensé à moi. She thought of me. Maybe when she saw someone who reminded her of me. Elle a pensé à moi could equal she thought about me. She spent a few seconds lost in an old memory of us. Very subtle difference between of and about here, but we as natives, we just simply feel the difference and we know which one to choose, most of the time. David pense à ses projets de voyage. David is thinking about his travel plans. Christian pense au moment où il a rencontré Chloé. Christian is thinking about the moment he met Chloé. This is an example of combining à with le for le moment and forming au. Very important. This example could also be used with the verb repenser, to think back to something or to think again about something. Il repense au moment où il a rencontré Chloé. Il refuse de penser aux autres avant d'agir. He refuses to spare a thought for others before he acts. Je pense toujours au script de la vidéo avant de me mettre au tournage. I always think through the video's script before starting to film. I could also say I always consider the video's script. Or in French, je réfléchis au script. Generally, for any deeper thinking, réfléchir is my go-to. But penser à works well too. Est-ce que tu as pensé à voyager après tes études? Est-ce que tu as pensé à voyager après tes études? So example of penser à plus verb. Have you thought about traveling after your studies? Now before I give you le petit quiz, let's just look at the next thing to know after you feel comfortable with choosing between penser à and penser de. And using à, au, à la, au, de, du, de la, and de. I didn't explain those here because I'm assuming that if you're already ready for this video, you know how to do that. So let's have some fun with the pronouns y and en. Y is used to replace a plus an inanimate thing or situation. And en is used to replace de plus the thing the opinion is about. Do note, y and en can't represent people, just inanimate objects, situations, etc. And let's imagine you wanted to answer the question, est-ce que tu as pensé à voyager? Est-ce que tu as pensé à voyager? Have you thought about traveling? And we want to answer that with something like, I don't know, yes, I think about it a lot, actually. Yes, I think about it a lot, actually. You can say, oui, j'y pense souvent, en fait. Oui, j'y pense souvent, en fait. J'y pense. The Y is the about it. Cool, huh? However, if you're answering, est-ce que tu penses à Sophie? Do you think of Sophie? And you do from time to time, you have to say, oui, je pense à elle de temps en temps. Because she's a person, we keep à and add the stressed pronoun elle after it. Once again, only inanimate things and situations can be replaced by y. What if you want to respond to qu'est-ce qu'il pense de son travail? Qu'est-ce qu'il pense de son travail? What does he think of his job? So, we're talking about opinions here. And you want to respond to this with, you know what he thinks about it. He loves it. You say, tu sais ce qu'il en pense. Il l'adore. The en here is about it. Good, right? Once more, if it were qu'est-ce qu'il pense de son frère? What does he think of his brother? And you want to answer, you know what he thinks of him. He loves him. You say, tu sais ce qu'il pense de lui. Il l'adore. It's a person, so we say de plus stressed pronoun. De lui. Now, even though in English we can say, you know what he thinks, and just omit the of him, in French I believe it sounds a bit strange, so you need to include the de lui. Allez, un petit récapitulatif, a little recap. If it's to think about or of in the sense of an opinion, it's penser de. If it's to think about or of in any other sense, it's penser à. Simple. Allez, là, c'est l'heure du quiz. Show me what you've learned in today's video. How would you say the following sentences in French? What do you think about the price? I think about you when I read that book. I think he thinks about leaving. I think he thinks about leaving. Leave your answers down in the comments en dessous de la vidéo and I'll do my best to give you feedback. Those that leave a like on the video get priority when I check the comments for your answers, and leaving a like tells the YouTube algorithm that this lesson was particularly useful and it should show it to others. So I really appreciate that simple little click of the like button. Voilà, c'est tout. There are a lot more uses of the verb penser, but I really wanted to correct this very common and very simple mistake of penser de being used instead of penser à in this video. So you have a really clear goal of what to act on next. If you want to get your hands on a weekly newsletter in which I share exclusive tips and tricks for French, as well as personal stories from my journey, click the link down below in the description. And as a bonus, you'll get my bundle of 10 free guides to French confidence. Bon français et à la prochaine francophone. Ciao, ciao.